The sky burned orange and red as another bomb fell from space. Ambassador Selithvan pressed her thin body against the broken wall and covered her large eyes with her four-fingered hands. The ground shook. Dust and broken crystal fell from what was left of the ceiling. She could hear screaming outside. Her people were dying. The Varadi had lived on this world for 10,000 years. They had built great cities of crystal and light. They had created art and music that other species traveled across the galaxy to witness. They had never raised weapons against anyone, and now they were being destroyed. Selithvan pushed herself up from the ground. Her pale blue skin was covered in cuts and dust. Her long robes, once white and beautiful, were now torn and gray. She was the last member of the Galactic Council delegation on Vareth Prime. The others had died in the first attack, when the Kethver ships appeared in the sky without warning. The Kethver. Even thinking their name made her body shake with fear. They were a species of conquerors. They stood 7 feet tall, with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. They had 4 arms, each ending in sharp claws. Their eyes were black and empty, like the void between stars. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They simply destroyed everything and took what they wanted from the ashes. No one knew why they had come to Vareth Prime. The Varadi had nothing the Kethver could want. They had no weapons, no military secrets, no rare resources. But the Kethver did not need reasons. They only needed targets. Selithvan moved through the ruined building toward the communication room. Her legs were weak, but she forced herself to keep walking. She had to reach the transmitter. It was the only hope left. Outside, she could see the capital city burning. The beautiful crystal towers that had taken centuries to build were now broken and falling. Ships flew overhead, dropping fire onto the streets below. In the distance, she could see Kethver ground troops marching through the smoke. They moved in perfect lines, their weapons cutting down anyone who tried to run. Her people were not fighters. They did not know how to resist. They could only hide and pray. The communication room was mostly intact. Selithvan found the transmitter still working, its lights blinking weakly. She sat down in front of it and began to type with shaking fingers. She sent the message to everyone. Every species in the Galactic Council. Every world that might hear. Every ship that might be listening. This is Ambassador Selithvan of Vareth Prime. We are under attack by the Kethver Dominion. Our cities are burning. Our people are dying. We have no weapons. We have no defenses. We beg for assistance. Please, anyone, help us. She sent the message again and again. Minutes passed, then hours. The bombing continued outside. The screams continued, but no reply came. Selithvan felt tears running down her face. She knew what the silence meant. The galaxy had heard her message, and the galaxy had chosen to look away. The Kethver were too strong, too dangerous. No species wanted to fight them. No species wanted to die for the Varadi. It was easier to pretend they had not heard. It was easier to let one small world burn than to risk their own worlds burning too. She understood. She did not blame them. But understanding did not stop the pain. A young Varadi ran into the room. His name was Torin, and he was barely more than a child. He had been helping the survivors hide in the underground tunnels. His face was covered in blood that was not his own. "Ambassador," he said, his voice breaking. "They are coming closer. We must go underground with the others." Selithvan shook her head. "I will stay here. Someone must keep sending the message. Someone must keep hoping." "No one is coming," Torin said. The words were not cruel. They were simply true. "The galaxy has abandoned us." Before she could answer, the transmitter made a sound. A light blinked that had not blinked before. A message was coming in. Selithvan leaned forward, her heart beating fast. She pressed the button to receive the transmission. Static filled the room. Then, through the noise, a voice spoke. It was strange and rough, speaking in a language her translators struggled to understand. But the words became clear after a moment. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Expeditionary Force. We received your distress signal. Hold your position. We are coming." Seleth Vaughn stared at the transmitter. She did not understand. "Earth?" she whispered. "I do not know this world." She searched her memory. Earth. She had heard the name before, many years ago. A small planet in a distant part of the galaxy. The species there had only recently discovered how to travel between stars. They were considered primitive by the rest of the galaxy. They came from a dangerous world with strong gravity and harsh weather. Other species called them Deathworlders and avoided them. Why would they answer? She pressed the transmitter button. "This is Ambassador Seleth Vaughn. I do not understand. Why are you coming? You do not know us. We cannot pay you. We cannot offer you anything." There was a pause. Then the rough voice spoke again. "You asked for help. That is enough. Hold on. We will be there in 6 hours." The transmission ended. Seleth Vaughn sat in silence. Torin was staring at her with wide eyes. "Who are they?" he asked. "I do not know," she admitted. "I have never met a human. I know almost nothing about them. Can they fight the Kethver?" Seleth Vaughn looked out the broken window at the burning city. The Kethver were the most feared warriors in the galaxy. They had destroyed dozens of worlds. They had never been defeated. "I do not know," she said again. "But they are coming. And that is more than anyone else has done." She stood up slowly and took Torin's hand. "Come. We must tell the survivors. We must tell them to hold on. We must tell them that someone answered." They moved toward the underground tunnels, where thousands of Verati hid in darkness and fear. Seleth Vaughn did not know if the humans could save them. She did not know if anyone could save them, but for the first time since the attack began, she felt something she had forgotten. A small light in the darkness of her heart. Hope. 6 hours. She only had to survive for 6 more hours. Then she would learn what kind of species answered a stranger's cry for help. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the transport ship, Aurora, and watched the stars stretch into lines as they jumped through space. Around her, officers worked at their stations, preparing for what was coming. The ship was old and had seen many battles. The metal walls were scratched and dented, but it still flew, and it would carry them to Vareth Prime. Elena was 43 years old. Her dark hair was cut short, and her face carried scars from battles on 3 different worlds. She had been a soldier for 25 years, first on Earth, then on the colonies, and now among the stars. She had lost friends. She had buried soldiers under her command. She had seen things that still visited her in her dreams, but she had never stopped fighting. She did not know how. Her second officer, Lieutenant Marcus Chun, walked up beside her. He was younger than her by 10 years, but his eyes had the same tired look that all soldiers eventually got. "The fleet is ready, Commander," he said. 12 transport ships, 4 cruisers, and 2 assault carriers. About 8,000 soldiers total. Elena nodded slowly. "What do we know about the enemy?" Marcus pulled up information on a screen. "The Kethver Dominion. They have been conquering worlds for about 300 years. Their soldiers are big, strong, and covered in natural armor. They have better technology than us. Better ships. Better weapons. How many of them are at Vareth Prime?" "Our scouts estimate around 50,000 ground troops. Their fleet has about 30 warships." Elena was quiet for a moment. The numbers were bad. Very bad. Her force was smaller and weaker. By any reasonable calculation, They should not be going. What did the other species say about fighting the HFY? She asked. Marcus looked at his screen. The Galactic Council officially advises against any military action. They say the HFY are too dangerous. Several species have tried to fight them over the centuries. All of them lost. And the variety? The people we are going to help? They are a peaceful species. They have no military at all. They are known for art and diplomacy. The HFY attacked them 3 days ago without warning. The council estimates that half the population is already dead. Elena closed her eyes. Half the population. Millions of innocent beings who had done nothing wrong. Dead because a stronger species decided to kill them. And the rest of the galaxy just watched and did nothing. It made her angry. A cold, hard anger that she felt deep in her chest. Why didn't anyone else answer their call for help? She asked. Marcus shrugged. Fear, mostly. No one wants to make enemies with the HFY. The council sent a formal protest. They asked the HFY to please stop killing the variety. The HFY did not reply. A formal protest, Elena repeated. Her voice was bitter. How useful. She turned and walked toward the window. Outside, the stars continued to fly past as the ship raced through space. Somewhere ahead, a world was burning. Somewhere ahead, people were dying and begging for help. And humanity was the only species in the entire galaxy that had answered. Elena thought about Earth. Her homeworld was not a gentle place. The gravity was strong. The weather was extreme. The animals were dangerous. Life on Earth meant fighting every single day just to survive. Humans had evolved in that struggle. They had learned to be tough, to endure pain, to keep going when everything seemed hopeless. Other species looked at humans and saw primitives. They saw beings without natural weapons, without armor, without any of the advantages that other species had. They called humans deathworlders and treated them like dangerous animals that had somehow learned to build ships. They did not understand. Humans did not need natural armor. They had something else. Something that had carried them from caves to the stars. They had will. Elena remembered something her grandfather had told her when she was young. He had been a soldier too, back when humans still fought only each other. He had said, "The strongest weapon is not in your hands. It is in your heart." A person who refuses to give up can beat anyone. She had not understood then. She understood now. The door behind her opened, and soldiers began to enter the bridge. They were the squad leaders, the sergeants, the officers who would lead the fight on the ground. They wore armor that was heavy and plain. They carried weapons that were simple compared to alien technology. But their eyes were steady, and they stood straight. Elena turned to face them. "You all know where we are going," she said. "You all know what we are facing. The HFY are bigger than us. They are stronger than us. They have better weapons and more soldiers. Every other species in the galaxy thinks we are crazy to fight them." She paused and looked at each of them. "But there are people dying out there. People who asked for help. People who have no one else." The rest of the galaxy turned their backs. We did not. A sergeant named Rodriguez raised his hand. "Commander, why us? Why did humanity decide to answer?" Elena smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a truth that others did not. "Because that is who we are," she said. "Humans have always been the ones who run toward the fire. When others hide, we fight. When others give up, we keep going. It is not about being brave. It is not about being heroes. It is about being human." She looked out the window again. "In 4 hours, we will arrive at Verith Prime. We will drop onto a burning world and face an enemy that has never been defeated. Some of us will not come back. I will not lie to you about that." She turned back to her soldiers. But the Virati will know that when they called out into the darkness, someone answered. The galaxy will know that there is one species that does not abandon the helpless. And the Kethver will learn something important today. What is that, Commander? Lieutenant Chun asked. Elena's eyes were hard as stone. They will learn what happens when you hurt innocents in front of humans. They will learn that humans do not stop fighting. They will learn that humans do not give up. They will learn that no matter how strong you are, there is always someone willing to stand against you. She picked up her helmet from the table and put it on. Get to your stations. Prepare your soldiers. In 4 hours, we teach the galaxy what humanity is made of. The soldiers saluted and left to prepare. Elena stood alone on the bridge, watching the stars fly past. Somewhere ahead, a species she had never met was waiting for help. She would not let them wait any longer. Ambassador Selithvan crouched in the ruins of what had once been a beautiful garden. The flowers were gone now, burned away by fire from the sky. The crystal fountains were shattered. The ground was covered in ash dot around her, about 200 Virati survivors huddled together. They were the last group above ground. Everyone else had fled to the tunnels below the city. But these people had been trapped when the Kethver blocked their escape route. Now, they waited to die. The Kethver soldiers were getting closer. Selithvan could hear their heavy footsteps and the clicking sound of their language. They moved through the ruined streets, killing everything they found. They did not rush. They knew their prey could not escape. Torin sat beside her, his young face pale with fear. How much longer until the humans arrive? Selithvan looked at the sky. It had been almost 6 hours since she received the transmission. They should be here soon. If they are really coming, maybe they changed their minds, another Virati whispered. Maybe they realized it was too dangerous. Selithvan did not answer. She did not want to admit that she had the same fear. Why would anyone come to help them? Why would anyone fight the Kethver for strangers? A shadow passed overhead. Everyone looked up in terror, expecting another bomber. But it was not a Kethver ship. The vessel was different. It was made of dark metal, simple and angular. It flew low over the city, and as it passed, its side opened. Dozens of small objects fell from inside, shooting down toward the ground like falling stars. What is that? Torin asked Dot before Selithvan could answer. The objects hit the ground all across the city. They were not bombs. They were pods, made of thick metal, and they crashed into the street with enough force to crack the stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pods opened. Figures emerged from the smoke and dust. They were smaller than the Kethver, standing about 6 feet tall. They wore heavy armor that covered their entire bodies. They carried weapons in their hands. They moved quickly, spreading out into formations, taking cover behind the rubble. Selithvan stared at them. She had never seen beings like this before. Humans. One of them ran toward the garden where the Virati were hiding. As the human got closer, Selithvan could see more details. The armor was gray and scarred from old battles. The helmet had a clear visor, and through it, she could see a face. It was a strange face. Flat, with no scales or shell. 2 forward-facing eyes, like a predator. A mouth with teeth. The being inside the armor was female, with dark skin and sharp eyes that moved constantly. Watching everything. The human stopped in front of Selithvan and lifted her visor. Ambassador Selithvan? The voice was rough, but not unkind. Selithvan nodded, unable to speak. I am Sergeant Maria Santos, 77th Expeditionary Force. We are here to get you out. The human looked around at the frightened Virati. Stay low and stay together. We will protect you. Nearby, gunfire erupted. Selithvan turned and saw Kethver soldiers coming around the corner of a ruined building. There were at least 20 of them, huge and terrifying, their weapons already firing. What happened next changed everything Selithvan believed about the universe. The humans did not run. They did not hide. They turned toward the Kethver and attacked. It made no sense. The Kethver were bigger and stronger. Their armor was thicker. Their weapons were more powerful. Any logical being would retreat, but the humans charged forward. Sergeant Santa shouted something in her language, and the other soldiers responded. They moved like one creature, covering each other, firing their weapons in short bursts. The sound was deafening. Smoke filled the air. A Kethver warrior raised its weapon and shot a human soldier in the chest. The human fell. Selithvan expected the others to panic, to flee like any sensible beings would. Instead, two soldiers grabbed their fallen friend and pulled him back while the others increased their fire. The fallen soldier was not dead. He was hurt badly, but he was still alive, and he was still trying to fight. Blood was coming from his wound, bright red against his armor, but he was trying to lift his weapon. The Virati watched in disbelief. What kind of creatures kept fighting when they were bleeding? A Kethver charged at Sergeant Santos. It was twice her size, with claws that could tear through metal. It should have killed her easily. Santos did not run. She stepped forward to meet it. The Kethver swung its claws. Santos dodged, moving faster than seemed possible for something in heavy armor. She got inside the creature's reach and jammed her weapon under its chin, where the armor was weak. She fired. The Kethver fell. Around her, the battle continued. The humans were taking casualties. They were bleeding. They were falling. But the ones who fell tried to keep fighting. The ones still standing fought harder, and they were winning. The Kethver began to hesitate. Selithvan could see it in their movements. They were not used to this. They were used to prey that ran. They were used to easy victories. They did not know what to do with an enemy that refused to stop. One by one, the Kethver fell. The survivors retreated, running back down the street and disappearing into the smoke. For the first time in the entire war, Kethver soldiers ran away. Sergeant Santos walked back toward the Virati. Her armor was damaged. There was blood on her hands, some of it red, some of it the green color of Kethver blood. She was breathing hard. "Area is clear," she said into a device on her wrist. "Beginning evacuation of survivors." Selithvan finally found her voice. "You came. You actually came." Santos looked at her. Through the visor, Selithvan could see the human's eyes. They were tired but steady. "We told you we would. But why?" Selithvan asked. The question had been burning in her mind for hours. "We are nothing to you. We are strangers. Why would you fight and die for us?" Santos was quiet for a moment. She looked at the wounded soldiers being carried by their friends. She looked at the bodies of humans who had not survived the fight. Then she looked back at Selithvan. "Where I come from, there is an old saying. The only thing needed for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. The galaxy decided to do nothing. We decided differently." She put her hand on Selithvan's shoulder. It was a gentle touch, surprisingly so for someone who had just killed with those same hands. "You asked for help. That is enough. That is all the reason we need." More human soldiers arrived. They began helping the Virati, carrying the wounded, guiding the others toward safety. They were tired and injured, but they were still working. Selithvan watched them and felt something she could not describe. These beings from a distant world, these strangers, had crossed the galaxy to save her people. They had fought and bled and died for the Virati. In that moment, she understood something important. The galaxy had many powerful species, many advanced civilizations, many proud empires. But none of them had answered her call. Only the humans had come, only the Deathwielders. Perhaps, she thought, The galaxy had been measuring strength the wrong way all along. 9 days. The humans had been fighting for 9 days without rest, without resupply, without reinforcement. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on top of a ruined building and looked out at the defensive line her soldiers had built. It was not pretty. It was made of broken stone, burned vehicles, and pieces of destroyed buildings. But it was strong enough to hold. Behind the line, thousands of Varadi survivors sheltered in what was left of the city center. UN medics worked alongside Varadi healers, treating wounds and saving lives. Human engineers had fixed the water system so people could drink. Human soldiers stood guard at every entrance, watching for the enemy dot in front of the line. The Kethver army waited. They had tried to break through many times. Every attack had failed. The humans would not move. The humans would not break. Every time the Kethver thought they had found a weakness, the humans would adapt and push them back. Elena watched the enemy camp in the distance. Smoke rose from their fires. More ships had arrived to bring more soldiers. Her scouts estimated there were now 70,000 Kethver on the ground, against her 8,000 humans. And those 8,000 were now closer to 5,000 after 9 days of fighting. Lieutenant Chun walked up beside her. He looked exhausted. Everyone looked exhausted. "Commander, we intercepted a Kethver transmission. Their warlord is not happy." "Good," Elena said. "What did it say?" "He demanded to know why his army cannot defeat us. He called his commanders failures. He said the humans should have been destroyed in the first hour." Chun almost smiled. "I think we hurt his pride." Elena nodded. "What is his name?" "The warlord? Tyrek Shal. He is famous among the Kethver. He has conquered 11 worlds. He has never lost a battle. First time for everything." Chun was quiet for a moment. "Commander, our supplies are very low. Ammunition, medicine, food. The fleet is still fighting in orbit, but they cannot break through to drop us anything. We have maybe 2 more days before we run out completely." Elena knew this already. She had been counting every bullet, every meal, every bandage. But hearing it out loud made it feel more real. "Then we need to end this before 2 days, she said. "How?" "We are outnumbered 14 to 1. Even if we wanted to attack, we do not have the strength." Elena looked at the enemy camp again. At its center, she could see a large tent with banners flying above it. That would be where Tyrek Shal commanded his army. "We do not need to defeat their whole army," she said slowly. "We just need to defeat him." Chun understood immediately. A strike at the command post. Cut off the head. The Kethver follow their warlord without question. If Tyrek Shal falls, their army will lose its direction. They might retreat. It is a suicide mission, Commander. The path to his tent goes through their entire army. Elena was quiet. She looked at her hands. They were dirty and scarred. She thought about her soldiers, the ones who had already died and the ones who were still fighting. She thought about the Varadi, huddled behind the walls, trusting humans to protect them. "I will lead it myself," she said. "I will not ask anyone to do something I would not do." "Then I am going with you." Elena looked at Chun. He stood straight, his jaw set, his eyes determined. He knew the risks. He was volunteering anyway. "Get me volunteers," she said. "Soldiers who understand what this means. We attack tonight." By sunset, 300 soldiers had volunteered. Elena had to turn away twice that number. Everyone wanted to go. Everyone wanted to fight. It was strange, she thought, how humans became stronger when things were hardest. Other species broke under pressure. Humans seemed to get sharper at midnight. They moved out. The attack was brutal. There was no other word for it. The humans pushed through the Kethver lines like a blade through flesh. They moved fast and hit hard. Every obstacle was destroyed. Every enemy in their path was killed. The Kethver responded with all their strength. They poured soldiers toward the attacking force. The numbers were overwhelming. For every Kethver that fell, 10 more appeared. Humans died. A lot of humans died. Elena saw soldiers she had known for years cut down by enemy fire. She saw young people who should have had long lives ahead of them give those lives for strangers on a world far from home. But the attack did not stop, that the humans kept moving. They fought through exhaustion and pain. Wounded soldiers refused to stay behind. Soldiers who ran out of ammunition picked up weapons from fallen enemies and kept fighting. Soldiers who could no longer fight helped carry the wounded so others could continue. Elena lost track of time. There was only the next enemy, the next step forward, the next breath. Her armor was damaged. Blood ran down her arm from a wound she did not remember getting. But she kept moving. And then, suddenly, they were there. The command tent was in front of them. Kethver elite guards stood at the entrance, the biggest warriors Elena had ever seen. Behind her, barely 100 humans remained standing. "This is it," she said. "One more push. For everyone who died to get us here. For everyone counting on us back at the line. One more push." The humans charged. The fight at the command tent was savage. The Kethver guards were the best soldiers their species had. They fought with fury and skill, but the humans matched them. They fought with something beyond strength or training. They fought with the knowledge that losing was not an option. Elena found herself face to face with Tyrek Shal himself. He was enormous, nearly 8 feet tall, with armor decorated with trophies from his conquests. He looked down at her with those empty black eyes. "You are the leader of these creatures?" His voice was deep and cold. "You are small, weak. I will kill you easily." Elena raised her weapon. "Try." Tyrek Shal was fast for his size. His blade came down like lightning. Elena dodged, feeling the wind as it passed her head. She fired her weapon into his chest. The shot barely scratched his armor. He laughed. "Your weapons cannot hurt me." Elena did not answer. She kept moving, kept firing, kept dodging his attacks. She was looking for weakness, for any opening. Tyrek Shal was strong, but he was also arrogant. He was used to enemies who feared him. He was not prepared for an enemy who would not stop. He swung again, and this time his blade caught her arm. Pain exploded through her body. She fell to her knees. Her weapon dropped from her hand. Tyrek Shal stood over her. "This is the end, human. Your species is weak. You should have stayed on your little world." Elena looked up at him. Blood was flowing from her wound. Her vision was blurring. But she smiled. "You made a mistake," she said. "What mistake?" "You got close enough to grab." She lunged forward, ignoring the pain, ignoring everything except the target. Her hand found the knife at her belt. She drove it upward, into the gap in his armor at the neck. Where the shell was thinnest, the blade went deep. Tyrek Shal's eyes went wide. He made a sound that might have been surprise. Then he fell. Elena collapsed beside him, too tired to move. She heard shouting around her but could not understand the words. Human voices, she thought. That was good. Lieutenant Chun appeared above her. He was wounded too, bleeding from a cut on his face, but he was smiling. "Commander, we did it. Tyrek Shal is dead. The Kethver are breaking. They are retreating." Elena tried to respond but could not find the strength. "Stay with me, Commander. The medics are coming. Stay with me." She wanted to say that she was fine, that she just needed to rest for a moment. But darkness was pulling at the edges of her vision. She let it take her. The last thing she heard was Chun's voice, calling for help, and the sound of Kethver ships retreating into the sky. They had won. Somehow, impossibly, they had won. The sun rose over Vareth Prime for the first time in 10 days without the sound of bombs. The sky was still gray with smoke, and the ruins of the capital city stretched in every direction. But the Kethver were gone. Their ships had fled into space. Their army had scattered and run. The war was over. Ambassador Selithvan walked through the rubble toward the human camp. Around her, Varadi survivors were emerging from the tunnels and shelters where they had hidden. They moved slowly, blinking in the light, unable to believe they were still alive, but many were crying. Some with grief for those they had lost. Some with joy that they had survived. Some with both. Selithvan found Commander Elena Vasquez sitting alone on a broken wall near the edge of the camp. The human leader was bandaged heavily. Her left arm was in a support device. Her face was pale from blood loss. But she was alive. The medics had said it was a miracle. The wound from Tyric Shal's blade should have killed her. She had lost too much blood. Her body had taken too much damage. But she had refused to die. That seemed to be a pattern with humans. Selithvan thought. Elena did not notice her approach at first. She was looking at something in the distance. Selithvan followed her gaze and saw the human soldiers gathering in an open area near the camp. They were not celebrating. They were standing in formation, silent and still. In front of them, rows of bodies lay covered with simple cloths. Hundreds of bodies. Humans who had died in the battle. Elena finally turned to look at Selithvan. Her eyes were red, though Selithvan did not know if humans could cry. Perhaps they had simply not slept. "Ambassador," Elena said. Her voice was hoarse. "You should be resting. So should you." Selithvan sat down beside her on the broken wall. "What are your soldiers doing?" "A tradition. When soldiers die far from home, we gather to remember them, to say their names, to make sure they are not forgotten." Selithvan watched the humans standing in their silent rows. She counted the covered bodies. There were so many. How many? She asked quietly. 3,472, Elena said. The number came immediately, as if it was burned into her mind. More than half of everyone who came. Selithvan felt a pain in her chest that had nothing to do with her own wounds. These humans had crossed the galaxy to save strangers. More than half of them had died doing it. "I do not know how to thank you," she said. "I do not think there are words in any language that are enough." Elena shook her head slowly. "We do not need thanks. We need our soldiers to come home." She paused and looked at the bodies again. Most of them will not. They sat in silence for a long time. The wind blew ash through the air. Somewhere, a child was crying. "Can I ask you something?" Selithvan finally said double quotes, "Yes. Why did you really come?" "The true reason. Other species in the galaxy are stronger than humans, richer, more advanced. But none of them answered our call. Only you. I have thought about this for 9 days, and I still do not understand." Elena was quiet. She seemed to be thinking about how to answer. "On Earth," she said, "there is an old story. A man was traveling on a road and was attacked by thieves. They hurt him and left him to die. Many people passed by on that road. Important people, powerful people, people who could have helped. But they all walked past and did nothing." She turned to look at Selithvan. Then a stranger came. Someone from a different land, someone who had no reason to help. But the stranger stopped. He treated the man's wounds. He carried the man to safety. He spent his own money to make sure the man would recover. Why? Selithvan asked. Because the stranger saw someone in pain, and he could not walk past. It was that simple. He did not think about whether it was safe or smart or what he would gain. He just saw suffering, and he acted. Elena looked back at her soldiers. That story is thousands of years old, but it still matters. It reminds us of who we want to be. When we see suffering, we do not walk past. When someone calls for help, we answer, even if it costs us everything. Seleth Vaughn thought about this. She thought about the Galactic Council, with all its wisdom and power, sending nothing but a formal protest while her world burned. She thought about the advanced species who had received her message and turned away. Then she thought about the humans. Small and soft by galactic standards. Primitive, some had called them. Animals from a violent world, but they had come. They had fought. They had died. The galaxy called you Deathworlders, Seleth Vaughn said. They said you were dangerous and uncivilized. We are dangerous, Elena admitted. But not to people who need help. Only to those who hurt the helpless. Seleth Vaughn reached out and took Elena's uninjured hand. The human skin was warm and rough. It was the hand of someone who worked hard and fought harder. I will make sure the galaxy knows what you did here, Seleth Vaughn said. I will tell everyone. Every species, every world, every station. I will tell them that when the Verati called into the darkness, humanity answered. I will tell them that humans died for strangers. I will tell them that the Deathworlders are the only species in this galaxy with true courage. Elena squeezed her hand gently. That is kind of you. But we did not do this for recognition. We did it because it was right. I know. That is exactly why the galaxy needs to know. In the weeks that followed, Seleth Vaughn kept her promise. She traveled to every corner of the galaxy, speaking to leaders and ordinary citizens alike. She told the story of Varath Prime. She described the human soldiers charging through smoke and fire. She spoke of their refusal to run, their care for the wounded, their sacrifice. The galaxy listened. Some species were ashamed. They had ignored the Verati's cries and let strangers do what they should have done themselves. Some were amazed. They had underestimated the humans and were now forced to see them differently. And some were inspired. For the first time, smaller species began to wonder if they too could stand against the powerful. If they too could help those in need. The message spread from world to world, station to station, ship to ship. It became a story that parents told their children, a lesson that teachers taught in schools, a legend that would last for generations. When the Verati begged the stars for help, the stars were silent. But humanity was not. On Earth, families received messages about their loved ones who would not return. They grieved. They cried. They held each other and remembered, but they also felt pride. Their sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers had done something extraordinary. They had proven that humanity was more than just survivors of a harsh world. They were protectors. They were helpers. They were the species that ran toward the fire. Commander Elena Vasquez eventually recovered from her wounds. She returned to Earth and retired from the military. On quiet nights, she would sit outside and look at the stars, thinking about the soldiers who had followed her into battle. Sometimes, she imagined she could see Varath Prime, far away in the darkness. A world that was healing now, its people rebuilding, its children growing up in peace. Because humanity had answered the call. The galaxy had many powerful empires, many ancient civilizations, many proud species who believed they were the best the universe had to offer. But when the darkness came and the helpless called for aid, only the humans had come, only the Deathworlders, and the galaxy would never forget it.